looking at a few of individual stocks. One area that you shared with me, again, for your real job, right? For what you're doing with institutions and your clients, the money that you manage for others, is one strategy. But in your personal account, you might do a little bit more on the stock side. And I assume you kind of still bring in a little bit of that contrarian approach. But right now, you seem to be gravitating towards a lot of AI adjacent, maybe you could call them, because it's those stocks that are certainly part of the AI revolution, but not necessarily the direct AI. It's more, oh, the power grid, the cooler,
No,
making cooler head.
I think it's fascinating, and that is where I have put quite a bit of my personal portfolio of stocks. Um, A, we're seeing that the Nasdaq futures are getting way too crowded relative to the other indices, right? So I want to try to avoid those names at this point, from a risk-adjusted sort of perspective.
And I suppose that would especially be your large mega cap $1 trillion
Right,
companies,
right.
because
Which
that's what
I
really
have
drives the
not
markets.
had a problem with for this entire time. There are
Hmm.
plenty of videos of me on YouTube that people can see where I'm like, look, man, I wouldn't short these things. You got to be crazy. This is where you got to
Yeah.
be, right? The whole way up, if you remember when NVIDIA first took off, sort of in early 2023, people were trying to short that thing the whole way. And I made a number of videos going, you're crazy. Okay.
Hmm.
You're crazy because you're all saying it, right?
Hmm.
But now that the Nasdaq has gotten to that point, which again doesn't mean the Nasdaq's going down, it just indicates to me the risk reward is better somewhere else. So where else is it? Well, if the AI story is what's driving all this, which we could probably argue it's a big part of it, right? We know what the problem is, right? Which is where's all this power coming from? You know, so if they have to build out all this power, then that's going to be a lot of money going there, and that's some good wind at your back for those type of investments, right? And I just think it's kind of funny because for the most part, utilities and all that have not been a growth story for 60 years. You know, I
Hmm.
mean, William O'Neill like was not buying utility companies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And rightly so. You know, they were dividend plays, and that's what they were. You know, but now that's shifting, and I have a hard time believing that people are mega overcrowded long those type of stocks, right? Because it's been so long since anybody cared about any of those, right? You know, call your friends and neighbors and ask them what stocks they own, you know, and I'm sure they'll tell you Nvidia, Apple, Tesla, whatever, the whole gamut of what everybody likes to play. None of them are going to be utility stocks, right? And now we're getting this big shift here. And I think it's very interesting. And forgetting about what I say, um, look at what the market's saying, right? I mean, I look at some of these stocks, PWR, ABB, GEV, you know, TLN, um, VST. These stocks are all they're all breaking out.
Yeah. And not just a little bit. I mean,
No, a lot.
look, GE Vernova, of course, just had earnings. That was up 14.5% today. I do have a position in this myself.
Good.
But yeah, that does not look, I mean, this is not quite a utility, but when we were talking about how much GE when it was all together was a laggard, ever since it broke apart into GE Aerospace, GE Vernova, and GE Healthcare, I mean, it's really unlocked a lot of value from that company, it seems like. And GE Vernova has certainly been, since the spinoff, really at the forefront. I mean, look at that. Here's where the spinoff happened last year at 120, and now we're up at 630. So
Yeah, I just why not be in an industry where the wind is at your back? You know what I mean?
mhm.
That can make up for a lot of mistakes. You know,
Yeah.
and clearly that's where this industry is at this point. You know,
Mhm.
I don't see, and again, I can't see the future, but it seems to be a very hard argument to make that this is going to go away anytime soon because they're building these humongous data centers. Something's going to have to power them.
Right.
And we know that even besides that, this is a question of national defense as well, right?
Hmm.
And that never seems to have any kind of limit, you know?
Hmm.
National defense does not have a limit, right? So somewhere down the road, money is going into this, and they're going to have to build this grid to be a lot bigger. And I understand nuclear, and that's some other plays, they're a little bit more speculative, but certainly Oklo has done very well, which was a stock that we've been talking about for a while here. But the nuclear thing is probably a number of years off still, obviously, right?
Hmm.
Whereas these things are happening now. So
Right.
it's been surprising to me. I guess the weakness in natural gas recently has been a little bit surprising to me based on this. So like I'm
Hmm.
not in that because I don't fight the tape. I might have an idea. I might like it's just like the COT is an idea, right? I might have this
Hmm.
fundamental idea here, and that's all wonderful. But if the tape ain't agreeing with me, then
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. You know.
Yeah.
In this particular case with these stocks, the tape has been agreeing with that idea. So,
Mhm.
so I've been involved.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we say a lot of times. You can have great fundamentals on a company. It's got these great earnings, it's got this, great sales, all of these things. But if the stock chart is showing you something in a downtrend, well, something's not right.
Don't be silly.
Why do you want to have any part of that? I don't care how great the company
No,
is.
that's right.
Yeah.
The market is the ultimate judge, right?
Yeah.
So I like to wait until, like I say with the COT stuff, the COT might say one thing. That's the idea. The idea is everybody's too short. Great. But if the market keeps going down, then I'm not getting long, right?
Hmm.
Until the market confirms. It's the same thing with this type of stuff. The idea is, okay, power generation. Great. And when the stocks are acting well, then go with it.
Hmm.
But
And
I just find that, I don't know. I could be completely wrong on it, but it just, I find it very fascinating the fact that these are companies that nobody cared about for decades.
yeah. And Quanta Services PWR, I do have a position in this as well. But how do you kind of play that? I guess that do you bring any of that contrarianness to these, or um, news failure events, or how are you kind of managing your risk, getting that risk reward ratio right on the individual stocks when you don't have that
Yeah, it's a little
COT
bit
coming up?
different. It probably shouldn't be, but it's a little bit different. I just kind of say, like, okay, here's my portfolio in my retirement account. You know what I mean? I'll put, whatever, 3% into this name, you know, as long as it's acting well, you know, meaning if it's not lagging the market, if it's not going down while all the stocks and it that it's correlated to or are going up and it's going down, that's going to make me nervous, right? I don't trade these very actively, but I'll look at it over the weekend and say, how are these stocks that I am in doing relative to how they should be doing? And if they're doing what they should be, then I'll just sit on them, you know? I don't see how you can be, and I'll top ticket with this line right here, but I just don't see how you can't have some portion of your investments in this industry right now. If you don't, I just don't think you're paying attention to what's going on. Could they top? There's a difference between the stock and the underlying business because the stock is a discounting mechanism. Could they have already discounted all of this in? Sure, it could have. But given that it's on new all-time highs, it clearly hasn't just yet. You know, we get a news failure. Okay, now we can start talking about, okay, maybe it's discounted in, right? But we haven't had anything like that yet. So I'll just sit there and try to ride them forever. And not to say the stocks are going to go up every day. They're not. You know what I mean? But, you want to get like these 10 bagger type of things, you got to sit. You got to sit. And I'll just sit on them. And I believe in the theme. And as long as they are acting as they should, so to speak, um, I'll just sit in them.
Yeah. So last question, when do you know to get out? What tells you, oh, okay, you know, just like the COT going neutral tells you, okay, my edge is gone. What tells you that,
So, for
oh,
example, I own some XLU.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some bullish news after the close last night on this utility sector.
Mm-hmm.
And look what XLU did,
Yeah.
right? It was up strongly during the day and it closed down on the day, while these other ones were still ripping. PWR, ABB, all those stocks were ripping today. Why did
Mm-hmm.
XLU go down? There was no reason. And the stock market was up, by the way.
Right.
Why was
Yeah.
XLU down today?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I sold it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shoot first, ask questions later.
Could it go up tomorrow? What? Sure. But to me, it didn't act how it should have been acting.
Mm-hmm.
So when something doesn't act the way that it should, that's when I get nervous. So I got out of my XLU today.